Hello, this is Louise Singleton and thank you so much for coming to see my tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a textured base for your resin art, or for anything really, with using kitchen foil and cement. I've made mine look like sand ripples because I've been thinking about making a scene with sand ripples for ages and I finally got around to it. So stay tuned and see how I created this picture. So I started off with a 30cm by 30cm MDF board and drew on my guidelines so I knew exactly where to glue my foil, and I also covered the edges of the board with masking tape just to protect it from the cement when it goes on later on. And so here you'll see I've been rolling up the tin foil. It's just normal kitchen foil, and I've rolled it up into long sausages, long sausages, and pressed them down quite hard on the board just to flatten the bottom, and then I'm gluing them on with hot glue. And I'm going to speed the video up here because it is quite repetitive, but basically I started off my first ripple, I wanted it bigger and I wanted the ripples to get gradually smaller so you've got like a foreground background thing going on. Didn't know if it was going to work, never done it before, just wanted to try the idea out. So on the first ripple I used 3 pieces and then 2, then the rest are 1, and then in a moment you'll see that when it got right up to the top I just decided to use glue, hot glue, to draw the lines with the glue gun, because it saved me from rolling really skinny sausages. So here we go, there's the glue going on. So now I'm trimming off all the edges with some really strong sharp scissors, and I did stop filming before I remembered I needed to seal the ends of each of the sand ripples or sausages with glue, otherwise you're going to have like a gap showing between the side of your sand ripples and your board, so you need to make sure you seal all the ends up. So now your base is ready for the cement, and I use Jetcem rapid setting cement. It's really good because it dries so quickly, as the title suggests. In about between half an hour and an hour it's set, so it's really good, and if you're impatient like I am, you want quick results. I mixed about half of that plastic pint cup. I've half filled it with the cement powder and then added a little water at a time, just until it was the right consistency. And if you look now, it's kind of like thick custard. That's how custard should be, nice and thick, but not too thick. I can still pour it. In fact, that's how my daughter likes the gravy, I think. So I'm just pouring it all on, and then what I'm going to do is spread it all out with my fingers, and it's such good fun, so satisfying getting your fingers in there and just spreading it all around. Don't forget to wear gloves for this part, otherwise you're just going to end up in such a mess. I love wearing the gloves because then you can just, if someone comes to the door or the puppy needs attention, I can just whip the gloves off and I'm ready. So by the time you've got the ripples all covered with your cement, it's actually starting to set. Like I say, it sets so quickly, it becomes firmer as you're working with it, which is really good, because then you can start to really smooth it out nicely and pat down any little lumps and bumps. I think you can see I enjoyed this process way too much, because I've just gone on and on and on and on. So after an hour, this is what it looks like, and I got my electric sander out and gave it a quick tidy up around all the edges with some quite coarse grit sandpaper. It was about 60 grit, I think. If you haven't got an electric sander, it's not a problem, just, you know, sand it by hand. It's nice and quick and easy. And you'll see, if you look carefully, you see some of the little strands that you get sticking out from hot glue. It just leaves little strands behind, so you will need to go around and pick out any of those. And now I'm just brushing away any dust with a nice big soft brush. The next step, if you need to, is to fill in any gaps. I had quite a lot of gaps, and so this ready mixed all-purpose filler, you can use any type, it really doesn't matter, it's just the multi-purpose filler. It's ready mixed, so just scoop it out the tub and slap it on and it's done. Now it's time for painting, and I used acrylic paint, and I did a mixture of white, yellow ochre and burnt umber. I think it was burnt umber. Yes, it was burnt umber. And it was, I don't know if you've ever done decorating on that embossed wallpaper. It just takes absolutely ages, and it's the same with this. There's so many little indentations to get your brush into. It takes absolutely ages, so I stopped recording at this stage, and now here we are, it's all done. I gave it 2 coats, and I just used a mixture of the yellow ochre and the white for the base coat, and now here I'm adding the brown between the sand ripples just to give it the depth, and trying to blend it just up the sides a bit, so it's not a definite line, it's just very lightly brushed up the sides and blended. So I hope you're still watching. Anyway, this is my first ever video tutorial, and it's quite scary really, but I think it's going okay. It's quite enjoyable. If you've got any questions, please comment and ask me your questions, or tell me what you think, and subscribe if you feel like you'd like to see what's coming up next. I always have lots of different ideas and inventions. I'm always trying out new things, so if you want to see what else is on the agenda, please click subscribe. Right, so now I'm just going to put some extra light coloured, some of your pale yellow paint on the tops of the ripples, and whilst the paint's still wet, I just sprinkle it with the white glitter, which is actually called Sandy Art glitter. I don't actually think it's still available. I've had a look to give you a link, and that brand I couldn't find. I've had it many years in my cupboard and finally got it out to use it, but any white, fine white glitter would do the job lovely. Sprinkling the glitter onto the wet paint doesn't give you a really glittery effect. It's very, very subtle, so if you wanted a little bit more bling, I would suggest painting the tops of the sand ripples with PVA glue and then sprinkling the glitter on, and it will stick better. But I just wanted it to be really subtle. So now it's time to add the resin, and before you do that you need to mask the sides of your board. I use metal tape. I'll put a link in the description. It's really strong and it stops anything leaking out down the edges. You can't see it from this angle, but you can see it now. Look, I've brought it up quite high so we don't lose any resin at all if we move the board around. So the pigments that I've used in my ArtResin are Resin8 Deep Lake and Pearlex Duo Blue. And then at the end, after I'd stopped filming, again, I'm always doing this, I stopped filming and realised I wasn't quite happy with it. And so I added a little bit of Resin8 Tropical Temptations. It's a darker blue, and I added it just at the edges, but the left and the right sides, just to give it a little bit of depth and interest. And I liked it a lot better then. You'll see when I show you the finished piece that just adding the darker colours at the edges, which I'm trying to do just here, but it just wasn't dark enough. It made a big difference, and you'll see in a moment. There I am blowing it to get rid of the bubbles and to move the paint around. So if you're still watching, you've made it to the end and I can do a happy dance. I hope you found my tutorial useful, and if you're inspired to have a go, please give me a link in the comments so I can have a look at yours, and I'll be so pleased to see other people making one of my sand ripple pictures. These pictures were taken 24 hours later and it feels ready, but I like to leave it 3 days before I put it for sale. So it will be going for sale on Etsy. There's a link in the description, on the 28th of April. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you thought, and hit the subscribe button if you would like to come back.